Let's talk about it. Talk about it. You can be greater.
Yeah, have you been thinking how you been feeling? Have you been searching? Have you decided that you had enough? 'Cause you can be greater.
Welcome. My name is Ka'ama, and this is the Be Greater Moment. Today, I'm excited to have our next guest, a Hollywood industry giant, been in the film industry since 1990, has held the title of president and director of operations for one of the largest special effects and film production companies in California. Over the course of 30 years now, he's supervised the production, special effects, makeup effects, visual effects, animatronics, and other, specialty costumes for over 150 feature films, television shows, music videos, commercials, and documentaries. He has independently produced more than 19 feature films and I believe more than 3 television shows. He's collaborated on films such as Pirates of the Caribbean, The Curse of the Black Pearl, Beautiful Mind, which is an amazing film, Passion of the Christ, Hannibal, Big Mama's House, The Watchmen, Alice in Wonderland, The Night at the Museum, Battle of the Smithsonian, Curious Case of Benjamin Button. Today we have Harvey Lowry. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Kind of jumping right into it. You have 30 plus years in Hollywood, both between in front of the camera, behind the camera. I have a little bit experience in the industry myself, being on set and doing executive protection for some of, the biggest stars, all that good stuff.
Well, that's great.
Tell us who Harvey is. Like, who are you? Who were you before getting into show business? And what led you on your 30-year career?
Well, I tell you, it's a little bit of a long story, but I'll try and make it as short as possible. In high school and in college, I really wanted to be a marine biologist.
Wow.
Acting was more of a hobby, but something that I did pretty well with, and so inevitably I, switched gears and went into the film industry. I started out as an actor here in LA, and I had a very, distinct look. I had very long hair, and I was a surfer and had kind of that vibe going. So I got cast in a lot of music videos and things like that. I was in like an Aerosmith video, things like that.
Yeah.
Then I went back east for school, and while I was out there, I started getting more parts in movies and television series, and a couple of music videos out there. And at that point, while I was in school, I switched my major over to pre-med based on the recommendation of my academic advisor. But I realized a little too late that I didn't want to be a doctor. That wasn't for me. So I switched. I came back out to Los Angeles to figure out what I really wanted to do after school finished. And just by chance, one of the first jobs I got was as an assistant at a special effects studio. And I really liked it. I liked, that whole world, that whole aspect of filmmaking. So the company grew while I was there as the director of operations. We started doing more of, instead of makeup effects, started going more into specialty costumes and props, and then started branching into visual effects and a lot of other aspects of filmmaking, and ultimately into film production. Then in around 2006, I believe it was, somewhere around there, I actually had the opportunity to buy the company from the owner. He decided he was done and ready to do something different. So I took out a loan and I bought the company. And I expanded the company, opened up a couple of other branches in other countries and other states. Had a studio in Moscow. I opened one in Louisiana. And I was actually looking at doing a couple more. But about that time, I started producing movies and realized that my focus was shifting. And put the company up for sale. It didn't sell right away, but it did sell quick enough that I was able to get out from it and start producing films. Opened up my production company, Ascension Media, and I have since done about almost 40 now. Films, television episodes, music videos, commercials, and so forth. It's been a fun run.
Wow. That's a lot, covering, we covered 3 decades almost there, to where you are now. I know when we spoke, leading up to the interview, myself being a Marine vet, we had a quick conversation about you entering the Navy, and I know that had a lot to do with the medical side and all of that. Was
It
there
did.
did that play a part in you entering into Hollywood? And
A little bit, yeah, actually a big part. After school, I was still on the fence at that time. Immediately after school, I was still on the fence a little bit about going into medical school and pursuing a medical career. I was having my doubts at the time because I have a lot of acquaintances that are doctors, and it's not all BMWs in Beverly Hills. It's your existence is surrounded by death and injuries and illness and a lot of negative aspects. It's a very noble thing to be a doctor. It just wasn't for me.
Yeah,
I wasn't sure at the time anyway. But after school, I got an offer from the Navy to pay for my medical school. And they would put me through medical school if I enlisted for a certain amount of time. And that was very appealing because, medical school is very expensive.
Yeah.
And so I did consider it, and I decided, all right, let's give that a try. But a little under a year into the program, the Navy canceled the program. And, I wasn't in charge, so I didn't have much of a say in it.
Right.
So, basically got sent back home. That was the kind of the straw that broke the camel's back. After that, I decided, all right, I'm going back into the film industry.
So it's one of those things where it just divinely wasn't for you to go into medicine.
It was a sign, a big sign. Yeah.
So the military training that you did get that year, did you take anything from that year of training with you into your career?
A little bit. Yeah. I only got as far as what would be the Navy's version of a nurse.
Okay.
I didn't get into the actual medical school because that program was a little bit farther down the road from, where I got told basically to go home.
Yeah.
I learned, basic first aid and CPR and, protocols and, the Navy's ranking system and, things like that throughout that period that I was there. I didn't get that far. I learned more in college, taking, anatomy and physiology, human anatomy, chemistry, biology, a lot of those classes. You learn a lot about muscle structure and things like that that played more of a part in the effects industry than the Navy part did.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's what during that period, obviously it was a transition. What was the biggest challenge that you faced
from
transitioning from, you're not going in the Navy anymore. You already made your mind up. It seems like that you were going to, pursue the long-term Hollywood. What was there any challenge that you faced internally, externally, making
there was some challenges, and there was a bit of a lot of being at the right place at the right time. When I first got back out to Los Angeles, I re-registered with my manager and started looking into getting work back in the film industry. And I started looking for a job. Basically, I had to make an income somehow, and it just by chance. This is still pretty unbelievable. Back then, we're talking 94, I think. You had look in the newspaper basically for jobs. The internet wasn't that big back then.
Yeah.
It was still kind of in its infancy.
Yeah.
And I saw a job opportunity for an assistant at a special effects studio, which was unbelievable. They never do that. It's always hire from within.
Yeah.
Everybody has a friend that's looking for a way to get into the industry. And I went over to the place, I called, they said, come on in at this time. I went over there. There was a line out the door of people. And I thought, oh my gosh, what am I doing here? This is ridiculous. But I had nothing better to do. So I stayed and I filled out an application and I briefly met with the person who was the operations manager at the time. Very nice gentleman. And, I think we hit it off pretty good. And I left my application, went home, and I got a call just a few hours later saying, hey, can you come in for a second interview? And I was like, wow. And I went down there, met with him again, and he had informed me that they had about 60 people apply.
Wow.
And it was between me and 4 other people. And so I spoke with him some more. And then the owner of the company came in and I met with him and spoke with him. And I must have made a good impression because that time I had just gotten home and got a call again to see if I could start right then. And
wow.
Really right place, right time. I was young, driven, ambitious,
Yeah.
And I had a bit of experience in the industry too, which they appreciated.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. So a little bit of the knowledge and understanding of some of the inner workings that might have kind of push you over the top. That's amazing. Because you hear the stories of people coming to Hollywood, right? And I liken it to, the most talented, almost like being an athlete, the most talented people or most beautiful people in their town, they all converge on Hollywood with that dream, whether to be an actor, a writer, or director. And, there's that starving artist period. And those, like you just mentioned, those who have that perseverance to be like, well, I don't have anything else to do. I'm gonna stand in line and just kind of make it, because it's a lot of standing in line, right? So, I'm just gonna make this happen. And they persevere because of that internal drive, right? Where others may not be so successful. They don't have that internal drive to push through.
It is important to be driven and to be humble. It's I guarantee if I walked in there and I was like, oh, I'm an actor, I've been in this industry forever, you need to hire me, I would have been a completely different outcome.
Right.
But I went in there, I was just polite and nice and told them about my experience and my willingness to learn and go much further. Yeah. And I think that sold me.
That's awesome. So, we turn on our TVs, we go to the movies, not so much now, but when we used to go to the movies, we see, these amazing images, the artist, the actor or actresses bringing to life a character that is associated with a story. How does special effects, the visual effects, how does that bring that story to life even more? What is the inner workings when you're sitting and you have your storyboard and everything set up to be able to lay out this story and create this story? What's that process? What does special effects bring to a movie?
A lot. Special effects can transform a person into something that they're not. When speaking of regards of makeup, special effects and makeup, a lot of movies span a character's lifetime, and for example, the case of A Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
Yeah,
that film spanned several, predominantly Benjamin Button's lifetime. But all the other characters that were in the movie too. In that film, I worked with a wonderful team that was able to, we were able to accomplish, altogether there was 40 something makeups for Brad and a bunch of the other characters. Wow. To age them into their older years, as realistically as possible. Other films, like a Big Mama's House franchise. Able to make Martin Lawrence look like a woman.
A heavy woman.
A heavy woman. Yeah, that was. And when it's done right, it can make a movie incredibly entertaining. Just as if it's done wrong, it can really cause a lot of issues with a movie.
Yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to be able to work on a lot of movies that we've done right, that have done very well, and have made a lot of movies very enjoyable for their audience.
Yeah. I mean, like the Pirates of the Caribbean, I mean, that it's known for its costume, its makeup, and Johnny Depp bringing that character to life. It may not have been as believable if that makeup and those special effects weren't as sharp as they were.
Absolutely. It could have been a real problem. In that movie, my company did all of the characters except for Johnny Depp. He had his own personal makeup artist that helped him create that look. But all the other pirates, were done by my company.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I mean, and that was a big cast too, right? I mean, it was.
Yeah,
there was a ton of pirates in that. And then with the case of a curious case of Benjamin Button, you were kind of working backwards. Everyone else was getting older while the lead character was getting younger.
Yes.
So was that challenging? Yeah. I mean,
it was. It took a collaboration with a visual effects company called Digital Domain. They were tasked with aging Brad younger than his actual age. With special effects makeup, you can only take somebody a few years younger.
Mm-hmm.
But it's easier to take them older, of course.
Mm-hmm.
But younger is a different challenge, and can only be done so much. So Digital Domain was tasked with softening his look and making him look more youthful, where we made him older.
Mm-hmm.
Older looking, but in his case, it was younger. Very confusing movie. Yeah.
So there's, you use the word collaboration. Yeah. When you're working with another team that's outside of your team, what are some of the key principles that you're looking for that collaboration to be successful?
A lot. It's a fine line you have to walk with a company that's not in your will, not, kind of your company, I guess is a way of putting it. You want to make sure that you're not overlapping your work and wasting the production's money. And we don't want to overbuild something and then have them overbuild something, and all those man hours and time and materials and everything else is just wasted. But then at the same time, you don't also want to come up short where you're not quite finishing and meeting each other in the middle with, as far as your work goes, with their visual effects and the makeup effects. Yeah. So it does take a lot of communication and a lot of dialogue and a lot of back and forth to make sure that things are done seamlessly and properly, and everything is done in the best interest of the picture.
Yeah. So I'm sure there have been times where you've gotten off of that call or walked out of a meeting and you're like, because of the breakdown in communication, or and then having to work through that. What I mean?
There can be challenges at times. Yeah. It's inevitable. You get large groups of people, and
Yeah, they may have their vision, and then that vision may not meet what the directive is, and that's why that teamwork and communication, it's important across all industries, relationships, and really, it's one of the things, just the message in the Be Greater moment. You find those times that may be challenging, and you figure out a way, that balancing act, to find the moment where everyone can maximize their greatness together, and then you end up with an amazing picture, right? And then at the wrap party, everybody's like, Pass me that Dre. This was amazing. You know, and you reminisce on the ups and downs.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
That's amazing. Like, talk to me about your favorite experience in your expertise. Like, what's
Well,
go ahead.
yeah. Nowadays I'm directing a lot more movies than I'm doing effects for. I still do special effects for a small group of people, old friends that continue to need films in India and films in the Middle East. Ironically, I've got a lot of friends in Egypt that are sort of pushing the envelope as far as Middle Eastern films go. And
Wow.
yeah, a lot of great people out there. You only hear bad stuff on the news, but honestly,
Right.
Egypt is like one of the most peaceful countries.
Yeah, it
There are
is.
beautiful, beautiful people out there,
Yeah.
and India too. But I'm not doing as much special effects now. Now more, I'm directing and producing, and this year was extremely challenging.
Okay.
Had 3 films on the schedule for this year, and all 3 of them have pushed. For obvious reasons,
Right.
with COVID.
Yep.
So this year's is shaping up so far to look pretty good. Everything's coming back together now. A little bit of a setback with the new lockdown coming into effect here in LA County.
Yep.
But things still moving forward. I've got about to go into a film called Sentinels. That's a kid's action thriller.
Okay.
Another film called Swiss Family Robinson. It's a modern day remake of the old story. And another one called The Guns of Frank Eaton. It's a Western about the life of Pistol Pete.
Okay.
The infamous gunslinger.
Yeah.
It's his life story. I'm really excited about that one too.
Okay.
In the past, I've done several films that I'm pretty proud of. I've got a handful of movies on Netflix and Hulu and Amazon right now that people can go watch. A Christmas movie called Christmas in the Heartland.
Okay.
I've
actually seen I've seen the trailer for that.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that was a fun one. We filmed in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I've got a romantic comedy called The Competition that was done with Thora Birch and Chris Klein and Claire Coffey, a handful of very well-known actors, good actors.
Yeah.
Did a new film that just came out called Without a Body. That's a ghost story thriller, haunted house type movie. Did a film called Monday at 11:01. It's a thriller with a very big twist at the end. That'll catch the audiences by surprise.
Yeah.
A lot of good ones, a lot of fun ones.
Yeah.
That I'm proud of.
They're like your babies, right? You can't just pick, one baby over the other. Do you find directing and producing more gratifying than doing the makeup special effects?
I do. It is much more rewarding to complete something from its inception to its delivery. To collaborate with a writer on the script, get the story to where it's absolutely perfect and entertaining, and then every step of the way, casting, figuring out locations, what kind of camera to film on, picking the team, and then what almost equates to putting a puzzle together, actually shooting the movie and guiding the actors and the teams through each scene. You never film a movie from start to finish, sequentially. It's always, it's not uncommon to film the end sequence first. And then go back and, film all the part.
Yeah.
So it's the challenge I like is going through each scene and, working with the actors going, okay, this is what just happened. This is what's about to happen. So this is your persona in this scene. This is how that needs to go. I love that process. It's fun. It's a big puzzle that needs to kind of be put together and massaged, and I much more rewarding than doing special effects. I still love doing special effects, but that's I'm doing something amazing for somebody else's film. So there's kind of that vibe, that sort of feeling.
Yeah, you're helping to bring that vision to its full life, right?
Yeah.
Wow, that's awesome. You mentioned India. How much are you doing in, or if anything, in Bollywood? Because that's like the other giant in film that maybe a lot of people don't know is Bollywood has massive productions.
There it is. It's a very large industry out there. I've been fortunate enough to make friends with several big directors out there, a lot of friends, a lot of producers out there. The guys from Reliance Entertainment are good friends. I actually went to one of them flew me out for his daughter's wedding last year. That was
an event. I'm sure.
That was really nice. That was the biggest wedding I've ever been to.
Elephants. I'm sure there were elephants and
3 days
of
festivals, and the ceremony itself was probably only 2 hours long.
Yeah,
but there was 3 days of events leading up to that.
Yeah,
it was held in these palace grounds that were like the size of a football stadium.
Wow.
And they had concerts going on, open bars all over the place, fireworks, festivals of lights, and it was really amazing, really beautiful. India's film industry is really taking off. They're catching up with the United States, as far as their production value. They, a lot of the really big visual effects companies are actually based in India, or derived from India and then branched out to the United States. Prime Focus being one of them, one of the largest ones. It's their equipment. They've moved into the digital realm and started using American cameras, digital cameras. They still have their old, kind of formulas that work for them in India with their films.
Right.
It's not uncommon for their movies to break into song and dance periodically. As they do, their audiences really enjoy that. But the quality of their productions are really coming. I was recently out there and I went by Ashutosh Garanker's one of the biggest directors out there. And I went and visited him and went by his set, and he was filming a scene at the time I was there. He was gracious enough to hang out and say hello, big hugs and everything. But they had about 300 extras in this scene. It was a big war scene.
Wow.
That they were filming, and just that kind of pressure has got to be amazing. But he was cool as a cucumber. He was just fine. He was in his element, and choreographing and everything. It was great to watch.
Did you learn anything in that moment that you'll use on your set?
Yeah, actually, stay calm. Don't panic. You have your team in place to help you with everything you need.
Yeah.
It was really amazing to watch. His film sets are always super grand and spectacular.
Yeah. Awesome. So, talk to me a little bit about what's the craziest thing you've experienced, and you can leave names out and all if you need to. What's the wildest thing you've experienced that still kind of stands out in your mind today?
Let's see. I don't think I've really had any negative experiences with actors, like, you know, a lot of people, like you see in the tabloids. Most of the actors, I would say, have been very gracious and very professional and very upstanding and just wonderful people. Nobody I can think of really stands out as, you know, like, well, that was a mess. I've had you know, on the darker side of things, I was filming in Oklahoma once, a movie, and there was a storm coming in. Actually, this happened also in North Carolina on a Civil War movie. I'll tell you about that one first. I did a movie called Union Bound in North Carolina, and it was the story of Joseph Hoover, who was a soldier fighting with the North, who was captured in the South and taken to a prison, and he escaped from the prison with two other people. And the story is about them making their way north. And it's the first documented written occurrence of the Underground Railroad, where escaped slaves were coming together and escorting people north, risking their own lives to save other escaped slaves and to rescue escaped soldiers and get them back north so they could continue fighting to free them. And it's an amazing story, a real tearjerker, actually. I worked with a dear friend of mine named Tank Jones, who played a character who makes the ultimate sacrifice to save these people. He was an escaped slave himself. Okay. And he, you know, knew they got to a certain point in the chain of people where an escaped slave had been captured and killed. And Tank's character decides he's going to be the one to stay there and continue helping people. And unfortunately, the gentleman in real life was never heard from again after that. Wow. And on that film, there was a storm coming in while we were filming, and the film was 90% of it was filmed outdoors. Okay. And we were filming a sequence near water in this forest, and there was a storm coming in. And that, you know, my first AD had an app on his phone that would detect lightning within a certain number of miles. Yeah. And, you know, kind of the rule is if you get lightning within 5 miles of your location and you're outdoors, you have to shut everything down. Everybody has to go to safety. Yeah. And so we were scrambling. We finally got the last shot off right as my first AD was like, 4 miles, shut down. Send everybody home. That was a little bit unnerving because, you know, when you're filming, you know, you got basically, you know, $100,000 every minute, you know. Yeah. And if you have to, you know, shut down for a safety reason like that, your whole crew and everybody still gets paid. Yeah. You just don't get your shot. Yeah. And it can be devastating to a movie. Had a similar thing happen in Oklahoma, where we were filming a big sequence of scenes with, you know, all of my main actors in this movie and, you know, about 40 extras. Okay. And same thing. We were racing the clock, but we made it. Barely. Yeah. On positive notes, I've had, you know, a lot of great experiences with actors. There was an instance back a while back. We were doing a Collateral, the movie Collateral. Yeah. And Tom Cruise was, you know, the lead in that movie, and he needed a gag done where he got shot in the ear, you know, because a head wound bleeds a lot, but an ear is a place where it's not going to kill him right away. Yep. There'd be a lot of blood and such. And they decided they needed this late in the game. And he was filming in downtown LA and our studio was in Burbank. He got a break in filming, hopped on a plane, flew from somewhere down there, Santa Monica or LAX or whatever, to Burbank, and then got in a car and drove over to our studio at 11 o'clock at night. Yeah. And I had kept, there's about 8 people there to take an impression of his ear, process it, and, you know, create this prosthetic ear for him for, you know, shooting just a couple days later. And I'll never forget it. He walked in with his assistant, who's actually one of my best friends now. Okay. He walked in and had walked up to everybody that stayed to help him, thanked them for staying, and introduced himself like they didn't know who he was.
Yep.
And then, we did the impression on his ear and cleaned him up. And then as he was leaving, he made sure to walk around to every single person that stayed there and thank them again for staying and doing that before he left. I thought that was really gracious. You don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
know.
Yeah. I've had numerous experiences like that with, actors of Tom's, pedigree, and it's amazing because the end consumer, the person sitting eating the popcorn, they they do read the tablet, they do listen to the TMZs and all these other outlets that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes try to paint this bad picture because that gets more hits, that trends better than
Negativity gets headlines.
right and
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah and a
That's
lot of
unfortunate.
I'm sorry, say
That's
again.
unfortunate.
Yeah, it's but a lot of times they're amazing. What I mean, they're personable, and very gracious a lot of times.
Yeah, very much so.
Absolutely. Is there anything that I know you ran through a couple of the films that you are in production or going into production on? Can you kind of highlight those again for us? And when
Sure.
can we expect to see some of these amazing works?
Yeah. Sentinels is a film that the original title was Defenders, but that title has been used, so we changed it to Sentinels. And it's sort of a cross between the movie Chronicles, where the kids find an asteroid and get
Superpowers.
power, cross between that and the Karate Kid. It's about 5 kids that train in martial arts every day, and before school. And at school they kind of keep to themselves, stay out of trouble, get good grades and all that. But they watch as their senior year, their school is being taken over by gangsters and drug dealers and just bad people stealing cars. And the police don't seem to want to do anything about it, or they can't do anything about it, and the principal of the school can't do anything about it. So these kids decide to take matters into their own hands and disguise themselves and go after these gangs using the martial arts that they've been trained in. And they're doing pretty well. They're having challenges with it, of course, but their Sifu, who's kind of their trainer, their master, he sees that they're using their training for good. And when he was younger, he had mystical powers bestowed on him. And now that he sees his proteges using their training for good, he bestows his powers on them now. He passes them along. And they end up, there's a little bit of, I don't know if you remember, there was a series back in the 80s called America's Greatest Hero.
Yeah, the guy who fly but couldn't land.
Yeah, the guy, if he comes across like a superhero suit, he puts it on, all of a sudden he's got all these powers.
Yeah.
He has to kind of figure it out because he lost the instructions. Well, these kids have to go through something similar. They got to figure out how to use these powers. And one kid gets super speed where he can run really fast. One gets telekinesis where he can levitate things with his mind. One gets telepathy, he can read minds. Another one gets super senses where he can see and hear like Superman. One gets super strength, and so on. And so they end up using these powers to help them, and they get in a little bit of trouble. Their powers getting taken away, but they ultimately win. And it's a good movie. It'll be good. And it's a first part of a 3-part series.
Okay.
There's that. There's another one called Swiss Family Robinson, which is a modern day remake of the book, the old Swiss Family Robinson story. And this one is about a family sailing across the ocean to Singapore. And, so their son can do a semester abroad, and they get caught in a typhoon, and it rips the mast off their sailboat and waterlogs their engine and radios. And, they're basically cast adrift, end up washing up on a uncharted tropical island, and realize they're going to be there a while. So they decide to make a home for themselves. They're not destitute. They have their boat. They just can't go anywhere.
Yeah.
So they cannibalize their boat. They take the solar panels off, the lights, appliances, and make the best home they can on the beach. And, everything that happens in the book happens in this movie. The animals come in, they farm. And then, they encounter pirates. Just when we think all is lost, another boat comes with rescuers and saves the day.
Saves the day.
I'm excited about that one. Really excited. The other one is The Guns of Frank Eaton, which is the story of Pistol Pete. And it is a remarkable story. I was caught by surprise when I read the script the first time because there was things in there that I didn't know about him. Pistol Pete had a very dark upbringing. He was raised on a farm, on a ranch with his mom and dad. Rustlers came in to take all their cows and ended up shooting his dad in front of him.
Wow.
And so Frank Eaton, it was the boy's name. He devoted his life from then on to becoming an expert marksman. And when he came of age, old enough to know what to be allowed to go out, he went hunting. And he hunted down every single one of the people that shot his father and in that gang, and made sure that they weren't going to be able to do that again. And he had help from some very famous people at the time. What's his name? The guy that shot Billy the Kid helped him for a bit.
Wilder?
Not Wyatt Earp, but close to that. The names, I'm bad with names, so it's escaping me at the moment, but I'll think of it.
Yeah, no worries.
And some other people. Once he finished and he got his vengeance, he was very well known for being a marksman. So he went into a traveling show, and he actually lived into his 90s.
Wow.
He died in New Jersey later on.
In New Jersey, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, very, very. I'm really excited about that one too. It's that one's had a few stops and starts, most recently from COVID, but we're definitely going to make it this year.
Awesome. And will we be able to see any of them anytime soon?
Yeah, usually films take about a year to be delivered from the time that they're done filming. I've done it faster than that. I did a Christmas movie. I shot it in February, delivered it in October. That was challenging.
Wow, that was fast.
But usually it takes a lot longer because you've got, visual effects and color correction and editing and, music and score and everything that goes into, sound design and, everything takes time. But we're hoping each of these films will be done and delivered and in the theaters, hopefully, if they're back open, within a year of the shot.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Where can our listeners follow you? What are your social media handles?
I'm on Instagram at HK Lowry, HKLOWRY. I'm on Facebook too. Just my name, Harvey Lowry.
Okay.
That's it. I'm on Twitter too, but I'm not as active on Twitter. It just seems to be kind of a political hotbed right now.
Everybody's talking. Everybody's talking. I stay away from Twitter myself. That's awesome. Harvey, we appreciate having you. Thank you so much for taking time out and joining us on the Be Greater Moment. We'd love to next time have you in studio if you are up for it, and we can, have an extended conversation.
I'd love that.
We'd love to have you here.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Talk about it. Talk about it. You can be greater.
Yeah, have you been thinking? How you been feeling? Have you been searching?